This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Curaleaf, one of the nation's top multi-state cannabis operators with 49 local dispensaries, 14 cultivation sites, and 13 processing facilities, serving up more than 165,000 registered medical marijuana patients. Check them out over at curaleaf.com, spelled Curaleaf. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Monday, October 28th, 2019, and you're tuned into episode 827 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We kick off this week's news in Massachusetts, where late last week, a judge ordered a partial lift on the ban of marijuana vapes in allowing for registered medical cannabis users to buy marijuana flower to be used in a vaporizer. The ban on vaporizable oils, both THC and nicotine, remains in place. Suffolk Superior Court Judge Douglas Wilkins wrote in his decision that medical marijuana users were being negatively impacted by not being able to vaporize their medicine, and that allowing for the use of vaporized flower is justified given the quote-unquote balance of harms. Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, who imposed the vape ban earlier this month, is still required to take a number of regulatory actions to keep his ban active, including soliciting public comments and estimating the actual financial costs to affected businesses. Even with the limited ban, this is a small bit of good news for Massachusetts medical marijuana patients. A senior advisor to Democratic presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont said on Friday that the senator was open to the idea of his Medicare for All health plan to cover the costs of medical marijuana. Josh Orden, a national policy advisor for Senator Sanders, said on Friday while appearing on a TV show, quote, "But of course, Medicare for All covers all medically necessary needs. I think this would be a question that we would have to actually trust the medical professionals too. Look, it's not something that we would rule out for sure," unquote. Senator Sanders' campaign released a comprehensive plan on Thursday, just a day before Orton's TV spot, laying out how he would legalize and reform cannabis laws. Throw this one on the giant pile of reasons why Senator Sanders would be a great president. Go Bernie. Our final top story today is a piece by Dan Adams over at the Boston Globe looking at the financial toll that the ban in Massachusetts on the sale of CBD products has had on the state's ranks of new industrial hemp farmers, most of whom planted their crops this year just weeks ahead of a surprise announcement by the state banning CBD products. The new policy, which dropped in June of this year, also prevents hemp farmers from exporting their crops to other states, leaving them now with mountains of unsellable hemp. In a frustrating bit of regulation complexity, CBD products made from the kind of marijuana that gets you high remains legal. Sort of. In that sense, federal law considers that to be illicit. It's not actually regulated, unlike industrial hemp. That is admittedly very weird. This is about as messy and convoluted of a storyline as you can get, but the bottom line remains that the system as built is leaving a lot of hemp farmers out in the financial cold. Dan does a good job of laying out the particulars here. I'd swing over for the full dive in. This is easily a picture that could be replicated in other states, so not a bad idea to learn about this, so maybe we can avoid it in other places. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's top multi-state cannabis operators with 49 local dispensaries, 14 cultivation sites, and 13 processing facilities, serving up more than 165,000 registered medical marijuana patients. Curaleaf wants you to live life well, which is why the good folks over there put so much time and energy into making sure their operations are built around world-class quality, top-notch customer education, and a deep compassion for the people who use their products. They believe that cannabis is powerful and can improve people's lives. Pop over to cureleaf.com today to find the closest Cureleaf shop to you, because there's no better way to experience the Cureleaf difference than by making a visit yourself. You can also, while you're over at cureleaf.com, read about their support for the Veterans Cannabis Project, which works to expand access to medical marijuana by military veteran patients. You can check out that project in particular over at vetscp.org, which is spelled vetscp.org. Big thanks to everyone over at Cureleaf for helping support today's show. All right, time for the Blitz. We have an update out of Iowa, where last week I reported that Governor Kim Reynolds had said that she was not afraid to impose a ban on the sale of vaporizers. Thankfully, Governor Reynolds has seemingly had a change of heart there and said that on Friday that she was satisfied with the progress her state was making in educating its citizens about the potential risks of using vaporizers, and thus would not be ordering any kind of executive ban. Bart Shainman over at Marijuana Business Daily put together a great roundup of various Western legal cannabis states and how their marijuana fall harvests are going. In short, things are looking pretty good out west for marijuana, with strong crops being reported all over the place, in addition to healthy prices at the marketplace. Oregon, in particular, is an interesting state where we saw rock bottom wholesale prices earlier this year, but where things have since bounced back up over the $1,000 a pound mark, twice the low price in the dip. Pop over to Bart's story for more on California and Washington. Mary Jane has news that California will see its second legal marijuana cafe in the spring, with the planned opening of the 7,000 square foot Aeon Botanica, a fancy boutique, cafe, spa, and tea lounge all rolled into one, located in Los Angeles, where patrons will be free to consume cannabis. California's first cannabis cafe is also in LA, with Lowell Farms opening up just this past summer. While there are other places in the United States where you can legally consume cannabis, the field is a bit more limited when you look at places licensed to sell both cannabis and prepared food, a vertical with a lot of potential for sure. Embattled Canadian marijuana company CannTrust is laying off 140 people, which is 25% of its overall workforce, in a series of phased layoffs running through the end of the year. CannTrust was rocked by news in July that it had grown a lot of unlicensed off-books cannabis, which employees went to great lengths to hide from inspection officials. Since then, it's been struggling to stay alive and is following a remediation plan it filed with Health Canada just last week. An interesting and instructional storyline to track here. Kyle Yeager over Marijuana Moments picked up on news out of Finland that a petition was successfully filed with the government to consider the decriminalization of marijuana. Under Finnish law, if a petition to the nation's parliament garners 50,000 legitimate signatures, the government has to take up discussion of that petition's topic. The cannabis decriminalization petition proposes lifting criminal penalties for having up to 25 grams of marijuana and for growing up to 4 plants at home. As Kyle helpfully points out, the simple act of considering the decriminalization of marijuana does not mean that Finnish lawmakers will actually pass it, but it does set up an interesting storyline nonetheless. On Friday, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services reported that 81% of the cases tracked within the state of vaporizer-related health problems involves vapes containing THC. Health officials say they detected vitamin E acetate within some of those THC vapes, with one tested vape pen running as high as 40% vitamin E. Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer has been trying to ban vape sales, but had her initial block on flavored vaporizers halted by court action. On Friday, her administration asked the state's Court of Appeals to kick the case up to the state Supreme Court, so I'm sure we'll be hearing more on this later down the road. And finally for today, Kyle is back with another, as he put together a list of some interesting South by Southwest panels just announced as part of that festival's Cannabis track coming up in March. It's great to see a ton of regulars and friends of the show listed, including my friend Troy Dayton over at the ArcView Group, who will be talking about the descheduling of marijuana, as well as our very own Chris Crane, who is listed on not one, but 2 panels, both of which you should attend if you're in town. And I'm very happy to announce that our weekly podcast, Marijuana Today, will be recording a live episode during our own South by Southwest panel, which will be hosted by Dan Goldman and will feature our regulars Betty Aldworth, Shanita Penny, and Alex Kreit, who gets all the credit for pulling this application together. Thanks for that, Alex. I will also be there recording the whole thing, so if you're going to be in Austin in March for the big South by Southwest Festival, come and find us and say hello. You can open up Kyle's story for more details on the 25 marijuana-related South by Southwest panels. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Curaleaf, and to our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in, starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.